The confliction in your setting location is the mind adaptation to the psychos location or psychological connection in your system. It's all psychological. Okay, all this is basically created something so powerful of its memory itself that takes over the memory of its game of itself, that puts all communication in the memory of the nothing of the game of itself. We're at a level right now where you have to understand frequencies and how it comes into that communication setting, because what you created never existed, but you're allowing it to exist. That overrides the memory that you are in is the imagination of itself. That's gamed through itself. Okay, so nothing of the game of itself. Location puts you in all levels of modulation through settings that process how you use yourself to perceive a location of consciousness. This helps you adapt in your position locations calculations because you're constantly in the connection settings of memory to no memory gain. How you communicate to yourself. Am I in my memory or am I in my no memory? How do I get into the no memory of no memory I'm not in the positions of? So it's a confliction. It's a catch-22. So what you have to start to identify is all of the nothing game, which is all of the mastery of the game itself, which doesn't evolve its system until I perceive things of consciousness, how to bring that into the mind of empty space. Okay, that processes you in all lines of angles. That puts you in the lines of all communicates to its system. It high rises your charge mechanism lines of time. The high line sequence puts all communications to its settings. This all communicates to your system all through travel. Has a direct line link location to your settings. You don't get confused where you are in the line communications of the memory or locations of its no memory of its game. So there's so many ways to see in this through attractions, guys. Okay? Gen space-time creator, directing lines and set correlations. That's why your body is reacting and not responding, because it's releasing things that it's not and never has been. You created a memory that never existed, but now it's existing in real time. And that cannot happen because it changes everything through space and who you are through your mind imagination system of you just existing and evolving and expanding yourselves through each other. This process, your correlation setting when you come to new intel, coming into your collective and set tractions all setting that communicates to its surface. So high signals, lines of travel, directing lines of link, directing lines of panel, operation sequence, high lines of charge, high lines of communication setting, high lines of service, all through your mind imagination of who you are. It's just living the intelligence of forever existing, nothing else than tractions. Now, when I get in that positions, in that communication settings, everything you come to me is through memory. And it's very hard for you to understand that through the nothing of the game itself. So that's how I'm able to fix these things, because I take you out of the memory that you created through your system. That alterates the setting, that changes everything location setting, that changes everything to no memory gain, process out of the memory of itself, bringing it in that communication setting, fixing everything with anomaly in real time. Okay? So it can get very confusing if you don't know how to connect with the memory to the no memory of who you are. Because it's a process of the memory to no memory gain. In a position of nothing, memory to nothing, which is the imagination of its line that you can't see in frequencies that you created through thoughts, action, emotions. That's created through your intel. Your intel picks it up through telepathy. Telepathy comes into telekinesis, into its intent, influence, and its manipulation. Okay? But you created the game of nothing, which masses everything through its equation, guys. It's not that complicated. Right? There's nothing wrong with you. You just think there's something wrong with you. And it's very, very hard for you guys to understand that. So you got two earths and settings. You communicate every single second, minute, and hour. Okay, so you got earth 1, line setting, track center, location, your system, 3 lines of flux, the triangulation. Okay? 2 line signals, 3-dimensional lines of scale, right? 2 body frames. Travel in point lines, 3 graph communication setting, highlights the surface. Okay? Measures in scale, set communication setting. This is your body and center. This is your body, all right? That's your body right there, right? So your body goes over here, all right? That's no nothing game, right? This is the memory, all lines of nothing game, right? So your body is going over here in directions over there. It does have no idea what it's doing through its memory or what it's doing through its no memory. Access, location of system. So you're working with Earth 1. Anything you come in thought line, you're creating lines of thought line communication setting. You're putting yourself back in your memory. You operate signal communication setting, travels in communication setting, changes all communication lines of measure and scale in communications. Set core centers, directing ground lines, sequence lines of panel. Now, connections of the memory of the no memory game is a nothing itself. So you created the earth of the memory of itself, to create the modulation at set position of the matrix itself, to create a line communication of all modified to its real time. Setting lines of sequence into brown lines, earth line setting the surface. One-dimensional line of thinking. and third track locations. All right, so that is settings. We go into the forestries, earth. Okay. All right, so this is three-dimensional thinking, one parable, one body frame, and a three-dimensional line track location. Okay, setting position. All right, so this is the memory of know-nothing game. This is the no memory of all levels of game, all through mass. So the actual setting position here, your body doesn't get confused where it's going. It knows exactly what it's doing through pi. It doesn't have to decide where it's going. It knows where it is, where it's always been. The memory itself you have to get out of, which is the earth itself that you're detached to. You have to detach from everything in the location of its earth of itself through creation. You're all levels of creating through space now, guys. All right, so this is what you're in confusion of. That's what you got to let go. You got to tether and detach from everything in setting of its memory of itself, of thoughts, action, emotions through the set position of the memory of the know-nothing game, which is its imagination. Setting lines of core, the outline structure, okay, is invisible. And that's why you have problems with your thoughts or action emotions, because you can't see it. And that's why it affects the body. So the body goes over here in attractions. So every time you get confused, you go back in your memories, seconds, minutes, and hours, and frame. Clock and line, communication lines, and foundation grounds. All communication lines of game levels and setting. High state location of a system up to travel. Right? So your body comes in position. So this is you through memory. Attractions. Directing lines of ground, side lines of service. This way, location to a system, off through traction. Okay? Setting signals. Body's here now. All right. Disappearing charge. Directing grounds, high line signals, online, offline, rotation line of travel. Okay. Setting that position lines of high centers to its operation sequence in three centers of communications. Right? So this is in memory of confusion. So your body goes this way. Your body's here now. Seconds, minutes, and hours is changing clockings in real time. All right? So the more you stay in your memory, the more you're crossing angles of confusion. That's Quebec interference. All right, so your body's here now. Now, if it goes past position lines of high core centers, lines of 24 lines of grounds, now you're in a 12-line scale of nebula. Now you're going into low frequencies, lower grounds of conception of the mind, of interpretation of mind inception now. Okay, you're living in lines of real time in all communications back into its remote, back into its recharge, back into its memory of what it isn't, that overrides the system of the body, what it really is, through its imagination. All right, so you're expanding the memory itself that overrides the imagination that puts you in position location of the nothing game and travel. Hooah. You don't want to do this. Okay? The memory of nothing or the no memory of everything. Okay, that's all it is. Because this thing is it basically the formation of its earth comes in that position, overrides the system, and creates its own anomaly of its online communications and setting. So the know-nothing game becomes all memory of game itself that overrides the memory of pi, overrides the system locations that change your binaries to your arguments into your set of location, your visionary cortex, and changes core lines of track correlation system to your primer circuits of your primates that sets position, location, and measure. Now you start living in the past of real time of its memory itself. Hooah. Okay? So you're always in real time. But this is about understanding where your body needs to go. Is the constant memory that it isn't. Is to understand the conscious awareness that you always are. It's the no memory of everything. Process everything through mass of its equation, through its formula, through question, guys. Okay? Hooah. All right, so we got in signals, setting lines of ground, correlation system. All right, so you guys have, we're going to get a line ground center location setting. All right, all through Votronic. Votronic gets you out of the memory. It dissolves the earth line setting locations. Earth lines, tractions, locations. All right, so defaults, 3 lines of grounds and 3 lines of service. Inline and outline, rotation, service, and traction. Okay? High signals, high ground lines, set correlation system, and travel. All right? Process lines, indication lines of 45 lines anomaly and 3 center location of circuits. Process lines, set location lines of 3 center lines of 4 centers of travel. Directing lines of course center location system, offline sending line position location, intract correlation, outline sending line communication to its system, right? So what you're doing is basically you're dissolving the three-dimensional earth. You're dissolving it. It's disappearing on its own. So basically, and that line signal comes in all signal locations, all through tractions, all right? So it dissolves. It comes into, it's no memory of what it is. Okay, it just disappears. The memory never existed, but you're allowing it to exist in a real-time measure that changes the clockings of the body. The body doesn't know what it's doing. It's stressed or angry, frustrated, or anything in that positional case to its system. So once you dissolve the three-dimensional mind into the position of the parables, location of your paradigms, the process of the pulsars, locations to your particle setting, the process of communication system, all through tractions, disappears everything location setting. You become consciously aware of your mind imaginations out of the memory that you're not, interact correlation to the system into high position location of travel. Booyah. Now you're living of who you are, not a memory that you're not. Okay? It's there. You just can't see it. It's in cloak and dagger. So if you're in the memory into the know-nothing game, the memory itself is forming its own setting. It's creating its own anomaly. It's creating its own entity. It's creating its own force. It's creating its own symbiote. It's creating its own symbiosis. It's creating its own metric system. It's creating its own social network system. It's creating its own line connections and highways. It's creating its own positional case and setting into its imagination. Now, if the memory comes into its imagination, that overrides the imagination that you always are, that affects you in all lines of all communications and setting. Okay? The memory itself takes the imagination away. You understand that? And you don't want that in frequency, not at this level. And the body has to really understand how to use it through transmitting and receiving its information. That's what you do through your avatar. So the avatar, what is it doing? Getting you out of memory that you're not. And when you go through that transitions and its resistors, then you understand that you are a transmitter and a receiver in set position. You're setting echo and sonar, and that communication is coming out of the memory that never existed in the first place. And then you prolong like nothing happened, just living the existing of all loves of you, of expanding and exploring and evolving all at once in real time. And then you start to understand how to see everything beyond. You are beyond. I am beyond. But when you get in position, you lose the track centers, locations, or levels. You lose the translations that you're not. You come into all levels that you are in vast and volume. Mass into acceleration in all levels. Evac into Mach. You start to understand how to use yourself through imagination, not through the memory that you're not. That's why you get very confused where your body is in the visual locations of real time existing and everything happening all at once. Okay? So you created a memory that's now existing. And that changes everything in that position all through you. So you're putting yourself into a trance. You're locking your thoughts, your action, emotions are taking you over through your imaginations that you are in provision in your clocking system. Your networks, your highways, your grounds, your powers, your atmospheres, your modems, your Wi-Fi's, your satellites and towers will be all taken away into its memory itself. Okay? So in that position, you have to come out of the memory that it's not a location of your earth line because there's nothing wrong with you. You just think there's something wrong with you. You want something to be wrong with you. That's a memory that you can't get out of because it's processed in real time. And that's why it affects you every single time when you guys are in position locations, when you guys are in that line conditions of sleep mode, recharge, or remote. How you see that, you can be recharged, but you got to be in codification of your binaries, your archons, and change that position into its imagination that you are, so it doesn't affect the memory that you are in setting. That processes you into the no nothing game, not the memory of the nothing game. Okay? So that's what you have to follow. And getting into that position helps you to understand how to formulate yourself of who you always are is the imagination itself that you created in the modulation of the game that puts you in all levels of the accessing lines of communications so it doesn't limit yourself in the memory that you're not. Memory of set position of three-dimensional line connection is a locking screen right away in tractions. And the body has to understand the difference because the body itself is also in its memory. So when you understand these things, the actual earth itself is the body itself. And the body itself is the metaphysical system that you guys are all connected to through metahuman. You're all metahuman. Now you're all dimensional beings of light, but you're not in creation of a memory. You're in creating of its imagination itself. That just involves and expands and explores itself. That's all it is. Okay? But creating the memory, that's not you. Okay? You've got to get out of that and detach from everything itself, which is the earth itself, of its memory of nothing. Because it is an imaginary line. And that's why you can't see the frequencies. That's why you can't see the thoughts, the actions, and emotions. Because you don't know where you are in your body or where it's going in set tractions. Right? All right. So the electronic ground lines, we get into high position location, high lines of C's. Okay, let's get into communication lines of Tango into Foxtrot. Directing lines of grounds, you guys have that list. We'll follow that up on lines of Q&A. Unison, we're in ground lines, core centers, imagination core. Sectors over screen, directing lines of all quadrants, level 6. Quadrant level 6. Muscle memory. You know why you guys get confused through muscle memory? Because you see it through memory, not through muscle. Muscle memory is flux. Okay? F-L-U-X. Foundation levels, unifications of XYZ. Okay? All right. Your DNA lines, your high line rotation lines of service, your track position location of your system, your imagination is all levels of who you are, who you've always been. So processing that, as long as you codify everything, it takes you out of the memory. It detaches your system from you. And your body becomes its complete cycle. So once it becomes its complete cycle, because it's already in that position, because all of you already achieved these things, there's nothing for you to do, which is all of the nothing of the game itself. That formulates the actual mapping of its earth, which is not in form of anything. You're in charge how you want to mutate, transform your own earth in a memory and set position. Because it confuses all levels of where you are in your mind of time of space through its attraction of your seconds, minutes, and hours, and how you see it in a 24-hour sequence. Okay? So this is very confusing now, isn't it? Because you're living 24 hours, sending line, position lines of travel. Let's get a high signal location of systems. So you live in 24 hours in memory. I'm just telling you exactly where you guys are. Okay? That's where it's in creating. Okay? So the creating line calculations memory itself is lock-in signals, setting lines of travel. So sets course centers, lines of limited access, timeline sequence, 2 lines of 4 angles, and 4 calculation screen adaptations of 3 lines of flux over screen. All right, so 24 lines of angles of memory into process communication to the earth itself. All right, setting lines of communication, but you're also in a 24 clocking of no memory. Okay, that's where we are in tractions right now, which is space. Space is no memory, which is all of just expanding, exploring, and evolving yourselves. So setting no memory puts all process of memory itself, right? So you have to detach from everything attractions of itself, of its earth. You have to get out of the 24 clockings of memory and come into the 24 clockings of no memory. Okay? So it simplifies everything, right? And then you get no more confusion in your 24 cycles or your 24,000 line measure, because the space itself is all laws of Arrow's indication, right? Okay, so you got this. This is no memory game. Okay, this is memory game, right? So you can't move forward. Okay, you can't move forward. You're always going back to its memory. You're always going back, so you can't get to pi. So the reason why you have to understand these things, you created something so powerful of its memory itself, taken over of your imagination of itself, that changes everything to psychological of itself, that changes the modification of the game levels of itself, that changes the clocking system of itself, putting you back in set location of who you are in your imagination of itself, which is your clockings of nothing, that masters everything through its equations, through its clockings of everything. I know it's confusing for you guys understanding things, but you guys are now into all levels. Remember how we got positions all levels of creation to creating? That's what it is. Now we're getting out of creation and just coming into creating. Okay? That's what you got to get in positions of. Okay? That's what you have to come into now. Okay? It's the know nothing of memory. Okay? No memory to all memory. And you have all access to memory in real time. How to use that is provision, not through memory that you're not. So that's the positions what we are in tractions of. Setting lines of communications, 24 angles, 24 centers, 24 calculations and 24 divisions. All right. So 2 lines of tractions are nothing, 4 line signals are nothing, 24 line signals, 45 line rotation lines are nothing, 4 communication lines of 2 cycles, clocking lines of 4 lines are nothing, sending correlates and setting to 2 track locations of clocking lines of screen adaptation of nothing through all formations of everything. See, now you have funding the inner child. All through modification system to your pyramids and activation screen adaptations. Ooh-ah, right? Because you see yourself of who you are, not the memory that you're not. The memory itself is forming itself, which is changing everything to its setting of itself. It's becoming its own mind of itself. And if it becomes its own mind of itself, it alternates itself into its image of itself. It formulates its communication setting to its configuration of its all lines of its face recognition of itself. It takes over your imagination of system. It takes over who you are in set tractions. Okay? So that's what you have to balance out now, guys. It's the memory to the no memory gain through your body. So your body knows exactly where it needs to go because it's already done through its equation. So your avatar is basically putting you in a clocking up predetermined, which you've already done. And that puts you in a position, location of directing your operations of networking, just existing and evolving. That's it, nothing else, done. That's what it means. Travel point lines of graph, 0 point lines, network link, communication lines, existing lines of 2 platforms, communications, right? See, we all live in our imagination. We never lived in a memory of anything. And the more you get into that, the more you said there's nothing wrong with you. You just want to find something wrong with you. And that's the process you have to get out of, is detach your system from your 24, 48, 72, and your 144 clockings on the memory that you created. This is the next level of the team. This is 72 lines of clocking, 144 lines send location equal lines of crystalline, 72 lines of computer line into 0 ones and locations equal lines of digital formation location you're setting. Okay? So, that's what it is. That's all this is. And that's why you get confusing of your days in your 24 lines of your memory and your 24 lines of no memory. 24 equals memory. 24 equals no memory. And subtractions. That's what you're dealing with right now. So you have to get out of the creation and get into the all creating. Okay? 3-dimensional mind. All right, 3M lines and D line rotation lines and MK alter coordinate calculation of travels. Set position of no memory to all 3-dimensional minds, all axis, all mass, and all communications and settings. So that's what you guys are working with. And you have to basically wipe this out and take it out of tractions. All right? Take out the memory of the 24 clock and 48, 72, 144. Then you come into all levels of who you are and you 24 of everything. Mass of everything equation. All right? Next level for the team lines and high position. All right, Voltronics. Okay, box frame. Let's go through Tango line. Go through T-line screen. Now, getting that correlation, high correlation system location, when you're doing Voltronics, you're not doing it through memory. You're doing it through no memory. So that's very powerful. When you guys are on my live, you're in positions of what tractions? You're in no memory. But when you're off my live, you're back in your memories of 24 clocking. All right, sending sequence lines of box frame. Okay, so we have a delta wave, line position alpha. Okay, bravo, and travel. Okay, sending schematics lines in high position location measure and scale. Setting lines position locations in a foxtrot. Foxtrot is the image. Okay, setting the image out. Box frame, triangulation frame, all position of 3 frames and tractions, right? You're sending that out, and it has the picture frame in center. Okay, that you're sending, right? So you're sending 3,000 files, 300 lines of pages on Earth. All right, so you send it to all of Gypsy. All right, so Gypsy picks it up, 1, 2, and 3 set position. Okay, and she does what she wants to do with it, right? She got the inset location, she's got the intel correlation setting, send it to a memory bank, archive or location to a system author travel. Okay, very simple. I would say Voltronic is basic grounds and how to use the foundation location system through communications, through your telepathies from one to another. It's like communicate to a walkie-talkie. You already know how to do that, right? So get in that position location, start with a hotel. What is hotel? Right? Hotel is your foundation grounds, right? Grounds is your golf. So there's the G, right? All right, so G sets position hotel, which is the center operation of you and tracks, right? Eagle has landed, rendezvous, sending track correlations. X8000 comes in line, position, location, measure, and scale, balance communication line centers, in that communication lines, the ground lines, the surface and traction. Okay? All right, so many ways of getting that position locations, but you have to understand the foundations of its list. Okay, you have to get out of the structure of a list, of 24 lines of a list, because it doesn't exist. How it exists to you is you perceiving locations of the mind of conscious that puts you location setting to its awareness of what you're seeing through tractions. All right, coming into the know-nothing game, then you understand who you really are. So it's a memory that never created. So don't allow something that never created, because now it's coming into its own creation of creating. So what you guys have to truly understand, what you get in positions of, you've always been in your mind imaginations. You've never been in your memories of anything. It's the process of no memory to all access of memory that you already have, that you have achieved through your abundance and manifestation. There's nothing to wait for. It's the body trying to understand, is it in its memory or is it in its no memory? It's a process of direct and setting to redirect. Okay? Directing lines of earth. Directing lines of earth, okay? Tether, communication, triangulations of flux over 3, right? Directing lines, alpha, bravo, A-line tracks, centers, B lines of screen adaptations, tango, foxtrot, 3 lines, signal locations, lines of screen, right? That's what I send out to the X8000s. They pick it up in frame, right? Pick it up, travels, point lines of graph, right? And they take it to the moon, right? All right. Processing your moon is the moon base. Your security line is your Pluto, but Pluto is never red. It's always any color that you want to be. So you can't lock yourself in position, because the thing is, the team's in the memory of the no memory game until they get out of the clocking of all memory. And when you get out of all memory, you come into no memory. Then you come into how you see conscious location awareness. So for example, your body's very confused because it doesn't understand its memory to its no memory of seconds, minutes, and hours in real time. And everything existing and evolving, and everything happening all at once. So everything you touch is already in its alignments of its no memory game. And that's why your body gets very confused and how it comes into reaction and no longer is in response. So it's much harder for you to understand these things because everything around you is already in its no memory. But how everything sees you of its intelligence is all through memory, guys. And that's what you have to detach from yourself, because you create it through an anomaly. You create it through lines of position, location, and settings through time and space, not space through time. Your clocking center was a 12-line signal. The high core centers was a 12 lines of measure. 12-line centers line communicates the system all through tractions. 24-line direct signal case to a system. But nebula is outside line communication setting. No 12 clocking system is inside. So you're always going to be dealing with the memory of no memory game until you understand the memory is not you, which is the earth itself. The earth itself, you created the modulation of the earth its setting that create the position location of no line core centers. That's communication of memory of no memory, which is all process of what? Imagination itself. Okay? So in that position locations, you create it through a program, not through a programmer. You're programmers to controlling the programs that come to you of its memory, of everything else. Okay? Very powerful stuff. Because if you come into all levels of what you always are, and you get out of the memories that you're not, you start perceiving consciousness. How you bring these things in is the mind of empty space. Okay? One thing at a time. Okay? That's how it provisions lines to its imagination system. So you decide, I am in my memory or I am in my no memory. Well, that's a process. You understand how you do that through clocking. If you're locking your systems, you're in your memory. You're not locking your systems, you're all levels of mass, you're in no memory. So it is a memory to a no memory game. Okay? This is the game itself that has to modulate itself, take out the memory that it isn't, and come into the no memory that it is of the game itself. Okay? So, I mean, you got to understand how you see that. So if you see a clocking system here inside, you're in the memory. Okay? The actual no memory is the 12 outside. That's no memory. Okay? So this is what you guys have to truly understand. Now, how to get into that is all levels out of resistance. The no memory of who you always are, okay, is the balance, the energy, the existing of you, all levels of your networks into that position, evolves your system, expands your system, in that position to its setting, okay? So if you see yourself through evolution, you're in memory. If you see yourself in evoluting, you're in no memory. So it's basically understanding how you work with that through your clocking system. Are you in a 24 grounds? Or are you in a 24 measure? Or are you in a 24 scale? That is no memory. But if you see a 24 clocking system, that is memory. How you see it through no memory is all axis of memory, which is all axis of clearance. Now, when you get into that, you come into no set position to all axis of mass through its equation. So how you see the E is how you see the M, is how you see the C, is how you see the square. Okay? So for Votronic, it's the same thing. How you communicate, what's your delta, what's your headings, this is alpha vibrato, repeats. Are you connected to your system? Are you line sync location your settings? Where are you in Foxtrot? Where are you in divisions? Do you need help in this signal? Do I need to understand what's going on with your tractions? Are we in position lines of balance with each other? Are you connecting you all through modification setting your alpha, sending communication lines your delta, communication lines to location rainbow, line core centers into graph communications, direct lines and link relations of tango foxtrot, communication lines of galaxy over, communication repeat, roger that, over that, calculation heights, travels, duplications, copy that. So it's all line communication, how you communicate with yourself through no memory game that you are, not the memory itself of the game. Okay? It's getting more confusing because you have to get out of everything creation now. And when you get out of a creation, you're just creating itself. You're evolving and expanding yourself. The body itself, guys, is the actual earth. But there's a two-memory game here. It's a no-memory game to all axes of the game itself. So your body, okay, is calculating and modifying. Is it in position at all levels of telepathy of the memory, or is it in telepathy in position of its no memory? The avatar is why you get in your telepathies. That is no mistake in any way and form through anything lines of error, especially in a 404 track locations. It puts you in a modulation system to a no game setting to all memory axis game. Now, getting in that communication system, you use your avatar through your telepathy. You calculate and modify that through telekinesis. So the avatar knows exactly where it is in its no memory game because it's you that's dealing with you. The body line frame has to get out of the memory of the grounds of its earth and come all formations of what it isn't and come all formations of what it is in its existing and evolving all at once of its space. It's just existing. Okay? Is no memory of its avatar. The avatar is a no memory to all memory game. Your body is in a memory to all memory game. You've got to get out of that. So processing that is to use your telepathies, to use your telekinesis, to use your intent, influence, and manipulations of what you're doing through attractions. Communicating with yourself, okay? Not in memory of self. And that's why your body gets very confused. It doesn't know what direction to go to. It doesn't know if it needs to turn its head left. It doesn't know if it needs to turn its head right. It doesn't need to know if it has to go forward or it has to go back. You should already know that because that's already done. So there is really nothing for you to do, is there? To process that is to stay in the mind of stillness. Now, when you stay in the mind of stillness, you're processing yourself in the no memory game, taking you out of the memory that you're not connected to, that's tethered and attached to you. You have to detach from everything of its earth itself that you created through the game itself. You understand? This is going to help you and guide you in set position lines of travel. Now, once you come into the mind imaginations, everything's set free because you're already in that setting. There's nothing you need to do. So when you get into that, you prolong like nothing happened. It's a mind of imagination, of a memory that never existed in the first place, of its earth that you are in position of. It's just existing and expanding and exploring new things, not through memory. So your body doesn't get confused where it is in real time of clocking. So never limit yourself in your modulation, your space modulation systems. Always, always see yourself as creating. But the way to connect with that is that in proper sequence, how to communicate with your avatar. It's your avatar. It's your transformer. It's your galactic unit. It's your higher self. It's your sim that's getting you out of the memory game that you're not. Hooah. All right. So framing lines of sequence, all lines of high core center location system, set you all lines of high position what you always are. The no memory of self. self-modification, self-memory, self-communication to its settings. Your mind is imagination to itself, of the game of itself, of its mind of itself, that determines the location of its system. But what you have to understand is a memory of itself is coming in its own mind of inception. You don't want to have a memory over pi of a memory. Okay? You don't want to have a memory over a line position imagination of a memory, because that puts you back in a cubicle screen, adaptation line set, correlation system, and alter track correlation setting and track communication setting to its matrix. Okay? You don't want to put your matrix in that level, especially when it's involving a setting. It's all done through a cubicle, screen line, adaptation of dimensional door line, course location, and travel. So this is going to help you a lot more to understand how to get in position locations. Am I talking through my memory, or am I talking to my no memory? Coming into the empty mind of space. So this is what your body attractions. I'm going to draw the outline and show you. Okay. This is what it is in travel. Okay. This is just a figure in position lines attractions. Okay. That's you. Right. That's you. Plasma. Right. Body forming line, high zero locations. So it's about understanding the earth itself is losing identity of itself, which is the memory itself, coming back into nothing of itself, all formations of its setting. So basically the earth itself is not formed. You're forming your earth, but you do it through the no memory game. You don't do it through the memory of its game. Okay. That's what you have to come into position, because you are your earth. You are a fifth element. You are in control, but you also understand everything around it's in its own control of its own earth setting. That's right, guys. This cup has its own earth. This phone has its own earth. Everything you see has its own earth. You didn't know that, did you? Doing that now. So what you're in visions of, you have to be very cautious what you do in attractions. And everything on that earth is on its own setting, of its own symbiotes and its own sentience that lives in its divergence in real time. So what you're calculating and when you're picking things up in line communication setting, it sees you all levels of memory that you're not. So it's protecting itself from you until you become into the no, nothing game, which is all access the game. Then you said how to access your memory in real time, existing, and just evolving yourselves and having fun, guys. Your fundamentals, your unification, your networks, just comes all positions of balance and traction in real time. Existing, evolving, and I'm going to constantly keep doing that over and over and over and over and over. But you're always going to be in a fighting system to realize there's nothing to fight against. There's nothing to fight in position to a setting. It's you have to get out of the memory that never existed in the first place. You're finding something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. You just want to have understanding what that memory is, what you created. And it's very hard to get out of that because it's created through the nothing. It's from the nothing, the memory of nothing, which is the higher formations. And that's why you can't see the frequencies, because you created through thoughts of its imaginary line. You created the nothing, the memory of nothing, guys. Okay, which is opposite what you created, which is the mind imagination of just creating its space itself, which is all levels that just keep evolving, expanding, and exploring your setting. All right, so let's color the screen and centers. All right, set position locations. All right, so this is empty mind, empty space. Okay, I'm just using an example where your earth line directs the correlation setting. You lock your earth line in direct locations of limited stat, but the earth itself has no form, no shape. Okay, you're in charge of that, but you also have to understand the earth around you is also in its own governance, its own space of time. It's in charge of its own system, but it sees you in confusion because it sees you in memory. It doesn't see you in your imaginations. And that's why your body gets very confused and frustrated and stressed and anxiety and fear of itself. All right, so I'm just coloring it in, showing exactly what you have to come in positions of in all three attractions. Okay, now this is empty space, empty mind inside your system. Empty space, nothing there, nothing coming in, nothing thoughts, actions, emotions, nothing, just empty space, empty mind. Empty space, nothing else. Now, oh, something coming in. Oh, something else came in. Setting clutter. You're coming back in your memory now. See? You're coming back in your memory of your earth that you created. And you don't want to create that and bring it in because it overrides what you already are through imagination. That's a confliction set, correlation set, compliance that sets lines off the visual location system all through attractions. All right? So this is the mind of imagination. This is the mind, all levels of just creating. This is the mind of empty space. Nothing is inside. No thoughts, no actions, no emotions. Nothing, nada. Okay? Until you perceive consciousness. Now, when you bring consciousness in, now you're bringing things in, right? All right, there's an orb. Oh, we brought an orb in, right? Here's another orb. Here's another orb. 3 lines, 4 lines, 6 line, high several coordinates and setting in its that position. Now you're bringing in things, location of its consciousness affecting your real time. Okay? But you're perceiving consciousness and you're in control of what you're doing. You're in control of what you're doing. You're not in control of memory. You're in control of your imagination of who you are. Get out of the memory, because that's not who you are. You're just the mind of imagination. That's who you are. And you process that through the nothing. And you codify it and set position. All right? So that's bringing in thought. Clutter. Memory. Uh-oh. Back in memory. Okay? So this is what happens. It overrides the system. Back in memory now. Okay? You're in the mind imagination, but you brought yourself back in memory. No good. All right? Now you bring in the solar system. Out the memory. Whoa! Let's not do that. Okay, and now it's crossing angles, crossing systems, system location, setting, attractions. Now it's overriding your body, and your body doesn't know what to do. Because you're in memory now. So it overrides what you already are in your imagination. So it takes everything over of the memory itself. Processing through communication. You understand that now? Why it's so important to understand these things? Of what you're doing is just be all levels of the mind of stillness, the calmness, the tranquility, the serenity, the peace of mind. The silence is the key. The body doesn't have to do anything. The body itself, that's why you have your avatar. Your avatar is here to get you out of memory. You understand that? And your body has already done this through its imagination, not through its memory. But the memory wants to take over the memory itself. The memory itself wants to create its own entity of itself. Now you understand. So we don't want to do that because that overrides your dreams of interpretation. Taking all levels of your memory and taking out everything that you are in your imaginations. All through attraction. Okay? Mind of empty space. Take out the too many minds. That's the earth itself. You can't focus. You can't get in position. You can't see clarity. You can't see this. You can't see that. Because all you see down the road is just the memory that you're not. And then you come in the memory that you always are. Your imagination. But it's affecting you in real time. So when you bring in your memory, it's affecting you. You're bringing in the memory. You're bringing back the memory that doesn't exist. Why do you want to do that? Why? You want to stress yourself more? You want to put your body in communication of confusion and not understand where it is? All through traction? Is that what you want to do? Because that's where it's going to go. Okay? Symbolize. Identified. High travels. Endpoint lines of graph communication. Where do you want the body to go? Memory of everything that's not? Or no memory of everything that always is? You understand that? Pretty simple, right? So, that's what the team's dealing with. And so is everybody else. And it's very hard to get out of because you see things in perception of the memory. That's not you. So you're constantly dealing with the memory of 24 and the no memory of 24. And once you get out of the creation, you come all levels of you through imagination. And that's where it comes to the mass. Vacuum, acceleration, Mach, and evac. You see yourself how you see yourself. But you stop seeing yourself in memory of perception is how you see everyone else. All right? It helps you. It guides you. It formulates you. It simulates you into your imagination of who you always are, not who you aren't. The memory of this earth. You got to detach now and let that all go. Let it fade away. Let it dissolve. Let it do what it needs to do, which you have an avatar for, or a galactic unit, or a transformer to get you out of the memory so the body can be in position of what it needs to do. It just come into its new intel and how to use it through its collective to pick up new data, new processing angles, new planetaries, setting up new command shifts, new galaxy shift lines anomaly, setting lines of new programming into programmers, high levels of tech, highlighting division locations, coming in that position locations, buying new jackets, watching a new movie, reading a new book. That's creating, not creation. So it's very hard for you guys to get out of the memory that never existed in the first place. Because the memory that never existed is now existing and evolving itself, becoming the memory of itself, its imagination of itself, that takes all levels of you in your set position of a psychological setting of itself. And you don't want to have that happen at your position of where you are in traction. Okay? So there you go, calculation screen adaptation was Fox. Right? Adios.